The BRSCC BMW Compact Cup is brought to you by Nankang Tyres and Gas Shocks.
But yes, the second Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup race is about to get underway, and as you say, potentially, as I've just found out, and we all have, this man could retain number one on the door for a fifth consecutive time. But it depends, as we say, of course, on Ben Huntley and Mikey Doble, who are behind him on the second row of the grid. You can see just behind my shoulder, if they don't score. Now, obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens in this race. And also, what could happen is that this man could have an effect. Paul Maguire, who said to me he's in a bit of unknown territory being in the front row of the grid. He has been on before in Mazdas, but not in BMWs before. He was the top man. We might be able to very quickly have a word with him to have a twit chat if we can. Just one second. Paul, you just said to me you're in a bit of unfamiliar territory being on the front row in a Compact Cup race. How's the nerves?
Pretty stable, to be honest. I mean, we've been here once before, or a few times in the Mazdas over the last few years. So it's unfamiliar in the BMW, but we're quite happy with the process.
But the rear-wheel drive seems to have really served you well all those years in Mazdas, transitioning into the Compact Cup. You seem to have transitioned almost seamlessly.
Yeah, it's a good switch. I do love the tin top, but it's just a bit of a learning curve with the open diffs. So you need to learn to drive, this more so than probably the Mazdas.
So, I guess the aim is try and beat this man in front of you off the line and try and stay in front if you can.
Yeah, I'll say normally the starts are quite good. So, yeah, if I can get a run on him, then I'll hopefully just stick with him. So either side by side or hopefully I'll be in front.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks, Scott.
Good stuff. So we'll see what Paul can do from the front row of the grid. Here is, let's have a quick chat if we can to Mikey as well. Mikey, third on the grid, decent day yesterday. Got to try and repeat it and do a bit better today, haven't you?
Yeah, hopefully I can get another good start like I did yesterday and try and tag on the back of the leaders and just try and see where we can go from here, see if anyone makes a mistake, but it's hard to pass around here, but can definitely apply the pressure.
And the important thing is just getting some points, and of course against the crunch point of the championship in the last couple of rounds, so every point counts now.
Absolutely, every point counts. It's coming to the business end of the season, not many races left, so we need to try and do the best we can here, for sure.
Well, best of luck, see you get on from third.
Thank you very much, cheers.
Great stuff. And then Ben Huntley, of course, back in fourth on the grid as well. Third row of the grid, we've got Ian Howes and Guy Davis. Those two have had some decent results on and off throughout the season. But good to see Ian as high as fifth, and then Guy Davis is sixth. Ian Jones is a bit further back than he'd like to be. We spoke to him earlier on, but I think we can have a quick word with Ben if we can, possibly very quickly. Ben, we're just heading to my crunch point in the championship now. Every point counts, so just got to get as many points as you can and try and get in front of the guys in front of you, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've just seen a few spots of rain coming out of the sky, so I'm hoping, complete washout will suit me nicely. But no, I think, I made a poor start yesterday. Just different diff, not quite used to it. So hopefully get a good start today. I don't know, got to finish behind Mikey really is the goal at worst. Hopefully I can get in front of him. I reckon I've got the pace to be with Steve, definitely from qualifying yesterday. The track seems a bit faster today as well, so I'm expecting a slightly hotter pace, so let's see what happens.
You're a bit of a demon in the wet. I remember last year at Alton Park you were pretty rapid, so you seem to like the adverse conditions a little bit more than some of the others.
Yeah, especially on these tight, twisty tracks where you've got grass and very little runoff. I think that makes, it's who wants to risk the most in the wet conditions, and I think my years of karting coming back to help me there.
Good stuff. Well, fingers crossed, I guess for you that it rains, but either way, hope it goes well and best of luck.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.
Good stuff. A couple of the drivers to note. Lead Andy Sadler over there in car number 2. He's an ex-Fiesta racer, so he's been adapting to the Compact Cup, so we'll see if we can have a quick wandering. Just have a look through some of the cars. There's some really well put together cars. And also, if you watched yesterday's race, you'll remember that Lead Andy Sadler was one of the drivers who got caught up in that first corner incident, but thankfully that car's been patched back together and all looking good. There's a shot of Greg Graham, who's the championship coordinator. But a few more cars at the mix. We've got Ray McDowell over here as well, car number 4, who is the father of Alex McDowell, who you remember from BTCC and GT days. And he's also contending for the Masters point. We might see if we can have a very quick word with him if we can, if he's not focusing too much just for a second. Ray, very quick word. Of course, you've had a pretty decent season so far this year. You've had some really strong results, a couple of podiums, so things seem to be going well so far.
Yeah, not too bad. First 2 races were good. After that, it hasn't been so good. We've struggled a bit here, and then, of course, had the incident in the first race. This isn't a circuit I'm very familiar with. Only raced here once 20 years ago, so I'm still trying to relearn it. But yeah, I'm on the back foot here, right at the back of the grid. We'll see what we can do.
But it's all good experience, and of course you're trying to keep your place in the Masters points as well, so I guess a strong result there to try and keep as many of them behind you, or pick off a few in front and get as many points as you can to try and keep in the position you are.
Well, that's it. It's all about trying to bank points, really. You know, there's another 2 races after this at Donington, which I like, and I love Donington circuit, so hopefully we can get strong results there and just really try and bag as many points as I can in this race.
Let's hope the rain doesn't come down either, because it's getting a bit grey out there.
Yeah, I don't mind the rain, so I'm quite happy if it rains.
Good stuff. Well, best of luck, Ray. Good to see you.
Thanks very much.
While the drive I do want to see very quickly, which you have to quite wander down here, but got some time to do so, is a pro Ross Stoner, because I was talking to his father, actually. Ross has come through from the production BMWs, and he's now in the BMW Compact Cup, so he's familiar to these rear-wheel drive bimmers, so to speak. There's one car I'm very impressed is back out, which is Jim Barrett's car. Remember yesterday, that had quite a bit of damage on the front end, so you can see very, very well done work. You wouldn't have thought that front end was that crumpled, but they've done an incredible amount of work to get that car ready. So I think that's the ex-Matthew Parks car. I think Matthew is also here. So his team running that car and looking in pretty solid shape. But yeah, Ross Stoner wants to chat to you because he's come through from production BMWs into this championship. So got plenty of experience in BMWs, but going from one to the other. So we might have a very quick word if we can, or because he would have done as the whistle system's just gone. So we're going to quickly scoot out of the way. And as the cars head out onto the grid, Andy, it is crucial if Stephen Daly wins the championship. It does depend on the fortunes of Doble and Huntley. We'll have to wait and see. So over to you for the grid for race 2 here at Cadwell Park.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott. The piece of paper I was handed, the actual wording is, if Mikey Doble and Ben Huntley take each other out, Daly could win the championship. I suspect that might have been written by Stephen. Let's hope it doesn't get decided by a collision between his nearest championship rivals. After the race yesterday, which was another one won by Stephen Daly, his 7th victory from 9 races this season. It's been an astonishing hit rate for Stephen. He has never finished worse than 3rd in any of the 9 races this year. He had a 2nd place at Croft at the season opener, a race that actually he ended up in the gravel in at turn 1, so to finish 2nd was a pretty remarkable result anyway. And then he had a 3rd place finish in the reversed grid race at his home event at Knock Hill on the 12th and 13th of June. But apart from that, he's won every single race. He's set the fastest lap in all but 3 of the 9 races so far, which gives you a bonus point. Because of that, though, it means that he is dropping more points than some of the other drivers. So it's always a bit of a double-edged sword that if you're winning all of the races, it means you're dropping more points than some of those that maybe had the odd bad weekend. His nearest rival, though, before those drop scores are calculated, is Ben Huntley. Ben Huntley, who starts 4th on the grid in the number 96 car. You can just see the yellow stripe down the roof of it, tucked in behind Paul Maguire. He is on 407 points. That's 41 points back before the drops are calculated. It's that early in the season, though, that we haven't really been working out the drop scores just yet, so it's astonishing to think that with still 5 races to go, Stephen Daly could be on the verge of yet another Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup Championship. Huntley, 2nd in the championship then, hasn't won a race actually yet this season. He'll be desperate to do so before the season is out, that is for sure, but he has had a really good hit rate as far as podiums are concerned. In fact, he's had 4 second place finishes, including 3 at Knock Hill, but he was off the podium in both of the races at Croft, where he just struggled a bit for setup and outright pace, and missed out on the podium yesterday, did Ben Huntley. Despite starting on the front row, didn't get a good start and dropped down the order a bit, eventually finishing in 4th position. Ian Jones is one of only 2 people not called Stephen Daly to have won a race this year, and he sits 3rd on total points then. He won that reverse grid race at Knock Hill that Daly finished 3rd in, did Ian Jones, but he's had very much an up and down season, and will be looking to try and bounce back a bit after a disappointing start yesterday. So as the cars head out on the green flag, let's have a look, shall we, at how this big grid of cars lines up. We're hoping to get 28 of them out there, and they are headed by Stephen Daly. The grid is the result of yesterday's race too, so if you missed yesterday's race, this is how they finished that one and how they'll start this one. So Daly, the reigning champ and potential champion by the end of this race, yet again lines up on the front row with Paul Maguire alongside him. Mikey Doble and Ben Huntley then, who are 4th and 2nd respectively in the championship. They're 3rd and 4th on the grid for this one, ahead of Ian Howes and Guy Davis. Good results for them yesterday. Rhys Claydon and Ian Jones line up on row 4. Jonesy had a really poor start and then got involved in a first corner collision, so was quite lucky in the end to get to 8th place by the flag. Running out the top 10 on the grid, Mike Doble, father of Mikey, with Matt Flowers alongside. Ross Stoner and Gareth Claydon are next, ahead of Russell Cager and Cliff Harper, with Simon Welton and Jim Barrett in that very hastily repaired car on the 8th row of the grid. Row 9 for Martin Gadsby and Jonathan Williams. Pete Smith and Stephen Somerville are on the 10th row, ahead of Richard Sutherland and Thomas Middleton. Ray McDowell down on the 12th row alongside Andrew Partridge. And then towards the back of the grid, Graham Robertson and Nicholas Tasker. They were the last two finishers yesterday, whilst we lost Lee Dendy Sadler and Tom Evans at the first corner. A shunt that was sort of triggered inadvertently by Ian Jones having a poor start. And that sort of bottled up the midfield going into the first corner. There was then a bit of contact, which sent a couple of cars skating into each other. No real damage done. The car that was probably the worst damaged out of the lot was arguably Jim Barrett, and he was the only one that was actually able to continue. But Lee Dendy Sadler ended up pulled off to the inside of the track was Tom Evans. And they are those two cars you can see at the back of the field, well picked out. So Dendy Sadler, the grey and blue car, Tom Evans, the white car right behind him. So they are the two that didn't finish yesterday. You can see that they are both out on track today. So, yes, Stephen Daly then, it is a long shot that he would win the championship today. I think it's very likely that this will go on to the final 2 rounds. We've got 2 races at Donington Park on September the 25th and 26th, and then another 2 on the 16th and 17th of October. So, Donington Park with a bit of a double header, if you like, almost a month apart, but the last 2 rounds both at Donington Park. It is likely that it will be at the first of those Donington events that the championship gets officially sealed, but as long as Huntley and Mikey Doble finish this race, they should be still, well, Andy and Jones as well, they should be able to keep the championship alive leaving Cadwell Park. But it's one of those circuits, Cadwell, that can throw up surprise results, and it's so easy, as we saw yesterday, to get involved in a tangle with someone that takes you out of the race. And if that happens, then that could definitely play into the hands of Daly on pole position. Stephen's got to get off the line well, though. His starts usually are pretty good. Yesterday he retained the lead from pole position and went on to win the race with the fastest lap, of course. But now he's got Paul Maguire for company. Maguire, as Scott was saying, has come out of Mazda MX-5 racing, where he had a decent amount of success, and made the move to Compact Cup a year or so ago. And yeah, this is, I would say, by far his best showing so far. He got his first podium of the season yesterday. I think that was his first podium ever in the championship for Paul Maguire, with that second place. But if he's going to win, he's going to have to beat the maestro, isn't he, really, Stephen Daly, who, as we've said, has just been on such a formidable run of pace so far this season. So a big grid being brought into position, but hopefully they will be all where they need to be before much longer. We can get 15 minutes of racing underway. And that's Ben Huntley. That's Ben Huntley in the pit lane. What did I say? If Ben Huntley and Mikey Doble don't score, then Daly could be champion. And Huntley is in the pits, and he's pushing his car into the pit lane. So he's got a problem of some sort. And yeah, that is... Wow, I did not expect to see that. Ben Huntley then is going no further. The race gets underway without him though, and it's a good start made actually by Maguire. Daly gets his nose ahead, but only just in the second phase of the start though. He's clearly in front. So Daly then holds on to the lead. Maguire in second. Let's hope we all get cleanly through this time. Oh, they're 4 wide further back. Someone had to bail out of it, and thankfully they do. Lee Dendy Sadler was involved in that again. One of the men that was caught up in yesterday's turn 1 shunt, nearly triggering another one. Ian Howes, look, into 3rd place ahead of Mikey Doble. Well, Mikey said to Scott that he wanted to get a good start. He did not get one, though. He's dropped a place. More elbows going on there. That's Ray McDowell getting forced onto the grass, and Martin Gadsby comes flying around the outside of him. So Daly leads then, Maguire second, and Ian Howes in third position. He locks up, though. He runs a bit wide there at Park Corner. Mikey Doble tries to get up the inside. Mikey's dad there, Mike Doble, running a little bit wide as well as the field streams through. It's really hard to run side by side, even through that part of the track. Nicholas Tasker there doing the sensible thing, I think, and just hanging back and letting everyone else get on with it. So, down through the gooseneck, Mikey Doble did not get back ahead of Ian Howes. Mike Doble there battling away as he comes down the hill. He's got Ray McDowell behind him. And, Matt Flowers behind him, number 3. He's trying to get up the inside, heading towards the mountain section then. Some Claydens together as well as they come towards us. The inside goes Flowers. He's going to clear Mike Doble. I think he probably will. Yeah, the inside to the left. That would have been the outside for the right-hander. And both of the Claydens follow each other off onto the grass coming over the mountain. That's Reese ahead of Gareth. And I think that was definitely a case of Gareth following Reese's lines, but Reese got the line completely wrong. They were both quite lucky to get away with that. So everyone's settling down single file then as they come through the hairpin at the end of what has been a slightly less frenetic opening lap this time. As there was a move being attempted. Oh, and around goes Tom Middleton. That was spectacular. Middleton in the 164 was being overtaken by somebody, possibly Stephen Somerville, as they went through the hairpin, and he ended up on the grass and spinning around like a top, looking not to get collected there as he spun back onto the road. So through Coppice and Charlie's they go, sideways on the grass. Guy Davis, that's so scary. You're going a lot quicker through Charlie's than you realise, and when you go wide, it's very, very easy to loop the car around, and then the barriers are not that far away on either side of the road. So Mikey Doble is going to be a bit... Oh, that's Reese Clayden. Reese Clayden's off properly this time. Now let's hope that Gareth didn't follow him off this on this occasion. I think he has made contact with the barriers coming out of Charlie's look, though, because he's not continuing. So Reese Clayden is out, and that would probably count as a dangerous position, you'd have to say. What a shame that he's out so early on, though. The rest of the pack makes its way through Chris Curve, but that, I fear, may require a safety car intervention then. We had one yesterday, of course, as a result of the lap 1 shunt. Hopefully this one won't take too long to clear up. Let's wait and see what race control decides to do. No sign of the safety car just yet, but if one car can go off there, then generally you have to believe that another one could do the same thing. Midfield battles then heading through the mountain. The leaders have just gone over the top of the mountain, sideways over the top of the crest for Simon Welton. Safety car boards are now out, though, so the safety car is being scrambled. So I was about to say Stephen Daly was building a nice little lead over Paul Maguire. That's going to disappear now, though, as a result of this safety car being scrambled, understandably, for Reese Clayden's car that is off the road. Reese had been running pretty well, actually. 9th place in the standings coming into this race. But this will be his second non-finish of the year. He had one at Snetterton as well, middle race at Snetterton, and then bounced back really well, actually, in race 3, setting the fastest lap as he charged his way through the order. Quite make it into the top half dozen in that race, did Reese, but he had some really strong pace at Snetterton. A shame that he had the non-finish in the middle race. Another one here, the flip side of that is that this will become his second drop score, I guess. So he'll win back a few points from a race that he was previously having to drop. So 10.5 minutes then on the clock. Stephen Daly leads, Paul Maguire second, Ian Howes third, Mikey Doble fourth, then it's Ian Jones up into fifth. He got ahead of Guy Davis on the previous lap. Guy had that moment at Charlie's. That didn't actually lose him a position, though, so Jones got ahead of him after that at some point. Davis sixth then. Gareth Clayden, of course, benefits from Reese's spin at Charlie's to move into 7th. Ross Stoner is in 8th place from 11th on the grid. 9th place, Matt Flowers. 10th position for Simon Welton. There's Reese Clayden looking on. Now, there are a few scuff marks down the right-hand side of the car, but they, I think, might well have been there already. I'm trying to see whether that front bodywork is loose. I think he may have nosed it into the barriers on the front left corner and done some steering or suspension damage, which we can't really see from that particular angle. As far as those coming from the back of the grid are concerned, Lee Dendy Sadler I just caught a glimpse of in the grey and blue number 2 car, 22nd for him from 27th on the grid. So made a lot of progress on the first lap, but hasn't made many more positions since then. his next target once we get racing again will be the 217 of Stephen Summers of Somerville. You can see Dennis Sadler just going down the hill there at the top of the shot. So the runyourfleet.com Jaguar safety car back out on circuit again then. We thank once more runyourfleet.com for their support of the BRSCC this season with full season sponsorship deal for this brand new safety car. And it's so nice to see companies still investing in motorsport, even given the tricky times that we're living in at the moment. There was a general sort of consensus 18 months or so ago when the whole COVID-19 situation started, and racing was put on hold for the best part of half a season last year, and the general idea was that was going to really have a negative effect on grid sizes and entries into particularly club level motorsport, and that really hasn't been the case. A lot of championships, particularly within the BRSCC, have actually seen a nice steady growth in numbers over the last year. And so drivers still able to find the budgets to come racing, sponsors still willing to be involved, which is really the key matter. Without sponsors, then the vast majority of these drivers wouldn't be able to fund their season's racing, even at club level. It requires a little bit of cash to go racing. Not talking pocket money here, and so they need the help of their sponsors, and all of the drivers do a lot of work during the off-season and through the season to try and bring new sponsors on board, but so too the clubs. It's always nice when the clubs can get a little bit of financial aid from sponsors. So yeah, runyourfleet.com, we're very, very happy to have them here adorning the side of the Jaguar safety car, which we've seen rather too much of today, though. As nice as it is, we'd rather be admiring it whilst it was stationary in the pit lane than seeing it out on the circuit, because that means we're not racing. But this is the reason that we have got the safety car out on track again. Rhys Claydon's car being lifted up onto the back of the flatbed truck, and we might just see if there is any damage. I mean, the front wheel is obviously at a funny angle, but I can't tell whether that's because he's left the steering on or whether it's because the steering has broken in the contact that he seems to have had with someone or something. Until we see the other wheel to see if it's pointing in the same direction, it's kind of hard to tell, but you would imagine he would have straightened the steering. Oh dear. You know, going off and damaging your car is bad enough, but this has got to be the least pleasant part of the process as a driver. You're stood there helpless watching the marshals and the recovery crews trying to get your car onto the back of the flatbed truck, and they are so good at doing this, but you can't help but worry that they're gonna drop it, or something's gonna snap and do more damage to the car. We've seen it happen in the past, haven't we? Not necessarily in the UK, but nervy moments there for Rhys as the marshals get the car back onto the truck. But the British marshals really are the best in the world, and they are able to deal with these incidents quickly, safely, but efficiently, and allow us to get as much racing in as possible. Sadly, though, I don't think they've quite been able to get that car out of the way quick enough to go racing this time. I suspect that the lights are going to stay on at the end of this lap, but we'll see. They may be able to find an access road to bring that recovery vehicle down, but as they head over the mountain now, you'd expect, going into the final sector, that this would be when the lights would be going off, and I don't think they are they? So we're going to get one more lap, which, yeah, there you can see Rhys Claydon's car. I really want to see that left front wheel to see which direction that wheel is pointing, because I still can't really see any evidence of damage, but it's likely to be the left-hand side of the car that the damage was done to. Couldn't quite see, though, from that angle, could we? So safety car lap time, well, we'll see now, because it's about to lead the cars across the line at the end of lap number 4. Safety car lap time is 3 1/4 minutes, as there you can now see the left-hand side. So that wheel is pointing in the same direction as the right-hand side wheel, but there's a lot of bodywork damage down the left, so even if the steering and suspension isn't damaged, it was clearly a bit of a whack into the tyre wall, and Rhys perhaps deciding that it was better safe than sorry. to get out of the car rather than try and continue in the race. So it definitely has been a sizable impact there. But yes, to my point, 3.25 minutes that lap took. So even if the safety car speeds up a bit this time, which you'd imagine it might do, we're only going to get 1 lap of racing after this, which is a shame. But that is the peril, I guess, of these slightly shorter 15-minute races. So we believe we should be able to get that recovery vehicle out of the way before the end of this lap. There might well be a route off the track up at the top end of the circuit through a barrier or something. Failing that, it should still get back to the paddock before the safety car gets around to that area of the circuit, and then we will have this 1 more lap of racing to go. So can Stephen Daly hang on to the victory? As it stands then, we don't believe this would be enough for him to wrap up the title, even though Ben Huntley is non-finishing. At the moment, Mikey Doble is still in this race in 4th place. Ian Jones is still in the race in 5th position. Jonesy sort of slowly inching his way up towards the front of the field as the weekend's gone on. Didn't qualify terribly well yesterday, Ian Jones, only 8th on the grid. Then he had that bad start, contact at turn 1, and now here he is in race 2, running inside the top 5. Now the safety car has got much more of a move on this time, and we still have 3 minutes on the clock. The lights are out, look, so the safety car's heading in. They might actually squeeze 2 racing laps in. I think they will. So it's going to be a 2-lap shootout for this second and final race of the weekend for Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup. Already, look, that some of the drivers have accelerated. It's such a big field. The tail enders are still going through the bottom of the mountain, whilst the race leaders are about to arrive at the hairpin. There is Daly. Maguire going with him. No overtaking, remember, until they cross the start-finish line, but you can accelerate as early as you like, provided you don't catch the safety car before it peels into the pit lane. But that has long since happened. So we're back underway again then. 2 laps of racing here at Cadwell Park. Can Paul Maguire do anything about Stephen Daly? It's going to be tough to do. He's flashing the lights at the race leader to try and distract him, using every trick in the book here, Paul, to try and get that first victory in the championship, which ain't going to be easy to do. Through Coppice they go, sweeping uphill. And Maguire, you feel, has 1 shot at this. If he doesn't make a move before the end of this lap, Daly might be able to get away. And Maguire was a bit quicker out of Charlie's there, and he is in the slipstream, so he's going to have a chance here to attack Daly for the lead as they make their way up the hill. He goes to the outside because Daly is always going to defend the inside line. Is there a gap? No, there isn't. Maguire isn't quite close enough, but he closes to within inches of the rear bumper of the leader, but then outbreaks himself a touch, and Daly cleaner through Park Corner, gaps Maguire by a car's length or so. Ian Howes and Mikey Doble very much going with them. They're dropping Ian Jones a bit now in 5th, and Mikey Doble will really want to try and get back on the podium. He's had 6 podiums already this season, Mikey, and he would love to make that a 7th here at Cadwell. Managed to get on that podium yesterday, did Mikey, with a 3rd place finish. He's running in 4th at the moment. So Daly now starting to assert himself out in front. It could become more about the battle for second, couldn't it, over this last lap and a bit, between Maguire, Howes and Doble Jr. There is Doble, right behind Ian Howes, who's had his best weekend. Actually, no, not his best weekend so far. He had a 3rd place finish at Croft. He was only 4th yesterday. 5th, in fact, yesterday, I should say. So he is on for his 2nd podium finish of the year if he can keep Doble behind him for 1 more lap. Out of Barn Corner they come, then across the start-finish line. Daly with the lead, and that lead is officially 9/10 of a second, and he sets the fastest lap as well, Stephen Daly, at 1:46.277 compared to his fastest lap yesterday of a 46.5. So the slightly cooler conditions this morning just enabling them to go a little bit more quickly around the circuit. Cooler conditions mean the engines run a little bit more efficiently, but also the tyres just hang on in there a bit, as long as it's not icy cold, which is definitely not. It's still very pleasant. Yesterday we were getting well into the mid-20s as far as track temperature was concerned. That was just a bit too hot for these Nankang tyres. Today, though, perfect conditions for fast lap times, and Stephen Daly setting them right now. But for 2nd place, it's still all to play for. Well, actually more 3rd, isn't it, really? Howes not really close enough to Maguire to challenge for 2nd, and he's definitely focusing more on defence, I think, than attack now, because Mikey Doble and Ian Jones are not far behind him. Through the gooseneck comes Daly, still pushing hard. kicking up the dust into the face of Maguire. Howes is out on the grass, he's sideways, so was Jones in 5th, but actually Mikey Doble was no quicker than them through that sequence, despite them going wide, but he is quick off Mansfield, and Mikey Doble looks to the inside now towards the mountain. He can't quite get there though. Howes shuts the door. Jones is sort of fishing around behind Doble and goes to the outside of him through the mountain. Locks up though, runs wide. Mikey was having absolutely none of that. Look at how that lead gap has come down too. I think Daly made a mistake through the mountain section there, and for some reason Paul Maguire is right back on his tail now as they go into the Hall Bends for the final time. Is there going to be a last-ditch effort here from Maguire to get through? We've seen already this morning battles that have been resolved at the very final corner. Thankfully, though, this time no contact between these two, as we saw in the Fiesta Junior race earlier on. It is going to be a very, very close finish, but it's not quite going to be a victory for Paul Maguire. Instead, it is an 8th victory from 10 races for Stephen Daly, and he gets one hand now very firmly on that championship trophy. Second place goes to Paul Maguire. Ian Howes does hang on to 3rd, then Mikey Doble 4th, and Ian Jones in 5th. It wasn't, by the way, a mistake from Daly, I don't think. It was actually Paul Maguire setting a fastest lap on the final lap, a 1:46.238. So that was a really quick lap time there from him. Lead Hendy Sadler there, trying to gain one more place on the line. He did pick off one more after the restart, because he was 22nd behind the safety car, finishes 21st, but at a circuit where it's so hard to overtake, and with half of the race there running behind the safety car, he just didn't have time to make a huge amount more progress. So Daly then with the win, Maguire 2nd, Howes 3rd. Daly will pick up another 51 championship points, because he gets the bonus for the... No, he doesn't get the bonus for fastest lap. What am I talking about? He gets 50 points then. The bonus, of course, as I literally just said, goes to Paul Maguire, who will therefore pick up 48 points for that second place. Paul Maguire was already leading the Masters Championship for the older drivers on the grid. But still very, very quick, and getting faster is Paul Maguire every time he goes out on track. So looking forward to, if he sticks around for another year next season, which we hope he will, looking forward to seeing exactly what he can do with already a full season or so under his belt. Ian Howes then picks up 3rd, moves on to takes 45 points. That's his 2nd, 3rd place finish of the season. Mikey Doble will get 44 for finishing in 4th, and Ian Jones will get 43 for finishing 5th. Huntley, the big loser, who scores just the 1 point, 0 actually, because you score a point if you non-finish. So if you start the race and don't finish, you get a point. If you don't take the start though, I think it is a 0, so that's going to be a 0 for Huntley. That will really hurt him in the championship, which means that on total points before the drops are calculated, Stephen Daly will go to Donington Park on 498 points. Into 2nd place in the championship by a solitary point will go Ian Jones, 1 point ahead of Mikey Doble. Jones will be on 433, Doble 432. 431 then for Paul Maguire. So we've got 3 drivers there covered by 2 points for 2nd place in the championship. It's going to be very, very close indeed.